Let me talk a little bit about that. Basically, our association has member companies, and we have 13 member companies who ship their product into Illinois and Wisconsin. And they've all banded together, and they hired me as their marketing and executive to run the association, to do a lot of education events. Some trade associations do lobbying. We do a little bit of that in government relations, and a lot of industry education as well. I do education for the precasters in our area as well. And then we all support the National Trade Association. So if you're familiar with CSI, the Construction Specifications Institute, the American Institute of Architects, those are all organizations that are similar to ours that are in the construction industry. So these are who my member companies are. I thought I would get started today by talking about all of the different products. We kind of saw them all fly in together and go together very quickly in a building. One of the most common types of products that you're going to see, especially in this area because there's a number of manufacturers doing it, is hollow core. Hollow core are these floor panels, or they can be roof panels. They come in widths of 2 feet, 4 feet, and 8 feet, and are typically about 30 feet long. Different manufacturers manufacture them in different ways. What you see right down here is called the wet cast process, and that's Flexicore is the name, the trade brand of it. Flexicore is 2 feet wide, and they use a wet cast process where the concrete goes in, is pretty wet as it goes in, and then it kind of wraps around those pneumatic tubes that you see in there, and that's what creates the hollow cores in there. There's also a dry cast method, like you see here, and that's usually either 4 feet or 8 feet wide, and that is going to be extruded out. That concrete is so dry that the minute it comes out of the machine, you can just walk right on it. So it's a very dry method. And then they've got pieces in the extrusion machine that core the hollow cores through it. Anybody have any ideas of why you would have hollow cores in the floor panels? Somebody said weight. Did you say weight? Yeah, that's it, exactly. Concrete is a very heavy product, and you don't need the strength of that concrete in all of the locations. You've got the steel going in there too, and so you want to make it a little bit lighter weight, shipping, erecting it on the building, just the loads in place. Yeah?
What's cheaper, the wet or the dry method?
As far as manufacturing,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. No one's ever asked me which is cheaper. Basically each job is going to be individually bid for each particular project, and so sometimes it works better. Like one of our manufacturers does both types of methods. Yeah.
So what, do you have to have a finisher finish all that, or no?
No, normally they'll just screed off the top of it, and then as they put it in place, you'll usually put about a 2-inch layer of concrete over the top for the floor mix. And that's not only because of the finish on top, and you'll have a lot of gaps, not gaps, but where the pieces meet, so you want to straighten that out. But also because of the pre-stressing process, you'll have an arch or a camber, and so you want to make sure that you have a level surface because of that. Any other questions about hollow core? Okay. Here's this. Double T's are the other floor product you're going to see. If you've ever been in a precast parking deck before, you're sure to have seen double T's. Anybody know why they might be called double T's? They look like 2 T's. It's not too early in the morning for you guys. They look like 2 T's right next to each other. There's also single T's, but we don't really see much of those used anymore. Those were used more like 20 years ago. So parking decks, gymnasiums, industrial buildings, Typically, you're going to see about a 60-foot roof span, or excuse me, a 60-foot floor span with those, say, in a parking deck. If you have a roof span, you might see as much as 100 feet with it. The trick when you get a 100-foot roof span with a double T is then how do you get it to the job site? And the precasters have to get special permitting for that normally. You're usually not going to do that in a really urban area. That's been done in more like suburban areas and out in ex-urban areas. So double T's are pretty typical. Now I should have, all right, I'll just keep using this. Insulated wall panels. One of the things that you can get with concrete is great thermal mass, but you don't get much in terms of R value. The R value that you're going to get from the walls is going to come from whatever insulation you use. So a lot of times in gymnasiums or prisons or industrial buildings, they'll add the insulation inside the sandwich of the wall panel. So you'll usually get what's called a 3-2-3 panel. It'll have 3 inches of concrete on an interior width, 2 inches of insulation, and then another 3 inches of concrete on an exterior width. Then those 2 widths have to be joined together somehow. So that can be done either by creating gaps in the insulation where the concrete will go all the way through, or there's also some products that Dow and some other companies manufacture that act as connectors for those 2 widths of concrete. Pretty typical application for industrial or schools, things like that. Modular construction is something that we typically see only in the prison market. Occasionally you'll see it in the education market or hotels, things like that. But in Illinois, we really have only seen it in the prison market. Almost all the prisons being built now use modular jail cells that are precast. They're precast, they're usually not pre-stressed, so they just have your typical reinforcing in there with wire mesh and rebar cages, things like that. What you see here are 2 jail cells, one right next to each other. It's a 5-sided piece of precast, and then at the precaster site they can put in the plumbing, they can put in the electrical boxes, they can put in the doors and security systems, all off-site. We had the director of prison construction in Illinois come talk to our group, and one of the things that he was saying is all of the job sites for prisons have to be secure. So every time a worker comes on at the beginning of the day and then leaves at the end of the day, that was adding about 45 minutes of time to their job that they're paying these guys for. So they like to have as much work as possible done off-site and brought onto the job site. So that's one of the reasons that Illinois is using all this precast modular construction for their prisons, although there's not a whole lot of construction going on in this area right now. Then the roof up here is used as the floor of the modular piece stacked on top of it, and you see there's kind of a lip sticking out. That's going to be a walkway then around it. So then they just stack one right on top of the other going up. One of the things that you're going to see on Wednesday when you go to County Materials are the bridge products that they manufacture. Most of the time in Illinois and other parts of the country, precasters are going to specialize in one area or the other. Part of that is because bridge products really require a lot of cooperation with the state DOT and other county engineers and the people who are generally building the bridges. So most of the time you'll see somebody, if they're doing bridge beams, that's all they're doing, although that's not always the case. One of our members does a little bit of a lot of things. What you see up on top is a box beam, and in the middle is actually a cardboard piece, so there's a large void in the middle of it, so it's not concrete all of the way through.